It's time for another edition of MetsMusings.
Hi, this is Ron Darling. This is Skip Lockwood.
Hi, I'm Ron Swoboda of the 69 New York Mets, and you're listening to Mets Musings with Gary Mack.
Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Mets Musings. I am your host, Gary Mack, and I hope you all had a great couple of weeks out there. I was on the injured list last week as I had an infection in my leg and could not do the show. So, but back this week, all healthy, ready to go and get back with it. I hope the Mets get out of this funk that's in. They've been playing about 500 ball the last few weeks, except Houston, who's been a particular thorn on this side. They went to Houston for 2 games last week and got swept. Houston is here this week. They beat the Mets badly last night and are in play right now as we record this podcast, and it was nothing in the going into the bottom of the 5th. So pitchers duel out at Citi Field so far today as we record this podcast. Carlos Carrasco was suddenly run into problems his last couple of starts. He was taken out with a back issue. He said he couldn't complete his pitches. Back tightness, they said. But whatever the state of his back, he's failed to complete 5 innings in 3 of his last 4 starts. And in the 4 starts, he's given up 27 hits and 19 earned runs while allowing 6 home runs. Eduardo Escobar is struggling at third base, not so much defensively, but offensively. He's down to like 231, 221 now, and just not making contact at all. The last couple of series, he's hit like 105. He's just been awful at the plate. So this could be, a chance. Jeff McNeil is back now. Started last night, and with him back at second base, that could mean more playing time for Luis Guillorme at third base now, as he could move over there and maybe be in a platoon situation with Escobar. Escobar can play against lefties, and Guillorme will play against righties. Because Guillorme right now has been hitting better, even though he's slumped a little bit recently, but still better than what Escobar has been doing. Excuse me. Jacob deGrom threw another batting practice session and came out okay. And this could, next stop could be a rehab assignment for him. And once he gets a couple of them in his belt, we could see him back in another few weeks or so. Max Scherzer was scheduled to pitch last night and actually was pushed back a day. He will pitch tonight for Binghamton, and we'll see how that goes. Hopefully he'll come out of it. He came out of the last one a little sore. That could mean a lot of things. It could be inactivity, it could be still not 100%, whatever. But they were cautious. They pushed him back. And we'll see what the results are tomorrow. But keep an eye on the news for that one. And let's face it, the Mets have struggled a little bit lately, and they still maintain a lead. let's see. They still got that 4-game lead over Atlanta, so they are hanging in there. Of course, they've been 5-5 over their last 10, and the Braves went 6-4, so they cooled off a little bit. The Phillies cooled off; they've been 5-5 over the last 10 as well, and they remain 8 games back. So, um, the Mets just right now are not matching up with some of these better teams. One being Houston. Houston has demolished them. I mean, it's not even. I mean, it was 9-1 last night, and the other in Houston last week. There was a couple of big scoring games. So Houston is really taking it to the Mets pitching staff so far. So that could change when Scherzer and DeGrom get back. But it's a big but. We have to hope they get back and are healthy and can get through the rest of the season. The Mets have to do a few things at the trading deadline. They're going to have to try to strengthen the bullpen, especially the back end of it. Drew Smith and Ottavino have been very good, and I can't think of the other guy's name now. Holdeman is hurt. He was good when he was here, but the back end, Lugo's been up and down. Diaz has been great. Got to be honest about that. Diaz has been terrific. Lugo's been up and down. Rodriguez and Shreve, the lefties out there, have struggled. I mean, it you got to be honest. They've struggled. So that leaves Williams, who's more of a long guy. So the Mets need to pick up a good, solid setup man or late inning guy to strengthen their bullpen at the trading deadline. They also have to do something about the DH spot. The Mets it's been a barren spot between J.D. Davis and whoever else they put in there over the course of the season. Now, when Alonso at the beginning of the year, when he would DH, he was doing well, but they've got him playing pretty much every day now. So between J.D. Davis has been quite a bit been the designated hitter. He's just not getting the job done right now. So will the Mets look for a known designated hitter? Will they bring up somebody? Could they bring up Vientos and put him in that role? Could they bring up Alvarez and tell him forget catching for this year? You're going to be at the DH and we'll work you into the catching. There's a lot of machinations that could go on, so I'll have to see what they decide to do. And they definitely need to get another starter or two. Not top line. They don't need the top line guys, but they need bodies, essentially. Peterson, as of late, has done a fine job keeping them in there. But Carrasco's a question mark now. Tyler McGill's been transferred to the 60-day IL, which means we won't see him till August sometime. Again, Scherzer and DeGrom are question marks. Taijuan Walker's been pitching really well. He's pitching today. And, but we don't know beyond that. Bassett's been okay. But he's had some great games and some not so great games. So he's kind of iffy right now. And, if he doesn't win you division titles and World Series. So the Mets may have to get some more depth there and pick up a starting pitcher to help them out at the deadline. So we will see what they will decide to do. Let us take a quick break and be back right after this.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for interesting baseball talk, opinions, and history.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for barbecue recipes, tips, and interviews from the world of barbecue. If you like baseball and if you like barbecue, then tune in to Baseball and BBQ. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and BaseballTalkRadio.com.
Wouldn't it be great if you could get a PhD in life through baseball? Welcome to Baseball PhD, a tour company for your brain. 30 major league teams, 100 places to see. Let's touch them all as we make the road trip of a lifetime.
Check out my Facebook group. It's at facebook.com/MetsMusings. Go check it out, and don't forget to call the hotline. It's 516-619-6341. Joining me this week is Mr. Jeff Wilson. He is the host of the Texas Rangers baseball podcast. He also writes, and I believe was a founder of the RangersToday.com blog site. Yeah. And he is on with me right now. Jeff, welcome to Mets Musings.
I appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out, man.
Well, this is indeed a strange and different thing for us because, we don't see the Texas Rangers once every. It almost seems like once every centennial or something. It's a long time in between. I think that's going to change next year, but right. For this year, the Rangers are coming into town, and be the first time we see them. I don't know, when is the last time? Do you?
I think it was 2014, right around 4th of July. I'm pretty sure that was it.
And here we are again around the 4th of July, and
right.
The Rangers coming into town. I think the last time the Mets were in Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. And it was so it would have been 17, I guess, if it's the every 3-year thing. And then, we were the East and AL West were supposed to match up for the COVID year, and that got screwed up, obviously. So they just are back on cycle, I guess. But yeah, next year it's going to change. I think we go everywhere once, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah. So Texas, the Rangers, of course, we know that it's George Bush's team. The former president had a piece ownership of it. Nolan Ryan was there, and many other big stars had quite a run in the 90s, the late 90s, early 2000s, and then kind of fell on hard times. And this offseason, they made a lot of acquisitions, and just with the acquisitions, we'll get into them a little bit, but what were the expectations coming into the season as far as the fans were concerned and the media was concerned in Texas?
Yeah, they were definitely heightened. This team lost 102 games last year. It was hard to watch. I mean, it was just terrible. And then the front office kind of admits it now. They're like, there are just some nights that they weren't competitive, and it's true. They still say they're in their rebuilding plan. I know they went out and spent $500 million on Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, which did raise expectations, for the fan, the casual fan. They're like, oh man, we signed these two studs. We gotta go to the World Series. But the Rangers are still trying to develop pitching in the minor leagues. They still have some guys who they thought needed to take steps forward who played on the team last year, and so they're giving them that chance. So expectations are definitely raised, but if you'd been paying attention, the playoffs were not in their minds. The Rangers even said, it's going to be tough to make up 40 games to get to the postseason, and it is going to be tough, but they're playing all right now. I think they're playing better than maybe people expected they would.
Yeah, I mean, they started off a little slow and picked it up. They're a game under 500 now, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Like 10 games out of first, but Houston was is a juggernaut. I mean, we've seen them here the last couple of days, and the Mets just can't seem to get through to them yet. Hopefully, there's another game today, and they'll be able to do something, at least win one. But Mets always had a problem with Houston, though. Even going back to 1969 when they won it all, I think the Astros then, who finished like next to last or last, beat them like 10 times or something. They've always had a history with Houston. Of course, '86 they had the playoffs with Houston when they defeated them in that crazy game. Getting back to the Rangers now, as we said, they're right around 500, and as you said, I think people will be surprised by that. Everybody had picked, of course, Houston, and the Angels had improved, but excuse me. Now we see the improvement of the Rangers, and what do you think the main area of improvement has been to improve them over last year's team?
Well, I think it's the pitching, really, because Seager and Simeon haven't been great. Martin Perez has been really good. I think he's going to pitch the Sunday game. No, maybe he's going to pitch the Saturday game. I can't remember. He's pitching this weekend. John Gray, who pitched Tuesday. He's doing well. He's doing better. He had a rough start with like a blister, and then he hurt his knee. He pitched against the Yankees, I think, in May, and had to leave that start. He was pitching well, and kind of tweaked his knee. But he's been doing well. So those two guys have been pretty good. It's the rest of the guys, and it's been hit or miss, as you kind of expect after your top two guys. The bullpen's been improved. That's been a plus, and then the offense, running hot and cold, but. Adolis Garcia is a guy that you guys might want to pay attention to. He's riding I think a 10-game hitting streak going into today. He was an all-star last year from Cuba. The Cardinals, I think, DFA'd him in the offseason of 19 before 20, and Rangers scooped him up and gave him an opportunity last year, and he's just an exciting player. He's really good defensively, fast, hits for a lot of power. And he's kind of come on here of late. So the offense is trending the right way. But overall, I would say, and strangely for a Texas team, that pitching has led this thing so far.
Yeah, it always seems to be the issue with the Rangers, the pitching. Even going back when they had that nice run against the playoffs and against the Yankees all the time, and it always seemed to be their relief pitching, especially back then. Was a question. How is the bullpen this year compared to how it's been in previous seasons?
Well, they're a little bit older now. All these guys that are pitching this year have been the last 2020 and 2021 getting their feet wet, and now they've got some experience. They can get out of jams that they get into. There's closer Joe Barlow, who came up last year. He's doing pretty well. He doesn't, he can get it up to 97, I guess, but kind of a fearless guy, throws a lot of strikes. Dennis Santana, Brock Burke, who is a left-hander. They're the two primary setup guys. They both have ERAs about 1.5 or lower. So those are the three guys to keep an eye on. Burke usually goes multiple innings. He pitched Monday. He pitched 2 innings Monday, so maybe he pitches today if he's needed, but he'll be good and rested for the Mets series if not. So I expect to see him once or twice in a close game. But it's a group that just doesn't have a lot of experience. But again, more than they've had the past 2 years, and that's a huge difference. I mean, you can say that about any player at any position. It's a huge difference when you get some notches on your belt.
Right, right. And as we know, bullpens are always kind of funny anyway. You could be terrific 1 year and stinko the next year, or
Right.
sometimes in the same year they can go bad.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's a crapshoot with a bullpen. Mentioned before some of the major acquisitions. Of course, I guess the two biggest would be Corey Seager and Marcus Simeon. Now, Simeon got off to a sort of a slow start, but as of late, has been playing some real good ball, starting to hit really well.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Seager, the average isn't there, but the power numbers are pretty good.
Yeah, he's been the manager, Chris Woodward, the other day called Corey Seager the most unlucky hitter in baseball. If you look at those ex-WOBA and stuff like that, it's over 400. And his batting average is in the 220, 230 range. He's hitting a lot of balls hard. He does hit the ball over the fence, and that's something that this team has also lacked. But for $500 million, you expect a little bit more than it's sub 250 average. But he's a great player. I mean, he swings a lot of first pitches, very aggressive. Doesn't talk a lot to the media. I don't know if that's an LA thing or what, but we don't really know him that well. Simeon, we kind of know a little bit better. I would say of the two, he's more visible for sure. And he was up front when he was struggling so poorly to start the season. He had a big game earlier this month at Cleveland, or a big day, and they had a doubleheader, and he went 7 for 8 with 3 homers. And he's had a good month. He went 3 for 4 on Tuesday night with a 3-run homer that kind of gave the Rangers some breathing room early. So they're solid guys though, and the Rangers like the way they play, like how they are as teammates, that kind of thing, culture building, if you will, and so they think they're a fit. And then and who knows, maybe they feel the pressure of these giant contracts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seager, for one, hasn't been in the American League before, so maybe it's taking him some time to adjust. I don't know, but we've got Simeon for 6 more years, and Seager signed for 9 more years after this. So they've got time to get better.
They got time to adjust, and Simeon's he's playing a different position, is he? Didn't he play? He's been playing shortstop, and now he's playing second base.
Right. Yeah, he won the Golden Glove last year at second with Toronto, but that was his first year as a second baseman.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect he would be better. That makes sense. And he hadn't wowed anybody really defensively yet this year. He had a really good defensive game Tuesday night though, and so you saw glimpses of it. But yeah, I mean, there were 5 big shortstops in the off season, and the Rangers signed 2 of them. Because everybody thought, well, Marcus Simeon will stand somewhere and go play shortstop. Right. It's kind of like Trevor Story now is playing second base with Boston. So you never know. But yeah, the Rangers, that was the biggest surprise of the offseason, I think, is that they signed 2 of those guys. And that 2 of those guys would go to a 100-loss team.
Yeah. Well, that and I think Correa signing with the Tigers was
the Twins, yeah.
The Twins, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah. That was kind of a shocker because they've got a good team, but they're not usually the type to offer free agent contracts. They're a small market team, so it's kind of a shocker there. But
it's working out so far.
Yeah.
Hurt,
and I noticed they also signed, probably not as big of a signing, but they signed Matt Moore, who had, comes with a little bit of a reputation. He had some good years in Tampa and struggled, and I noticed they're using him mostly in relief now.
Yeah, and he thinks that's his role going forward. I mean, it was 11 years ago when he kind of came under the scene with Tampa Bay, and he actually shoved it up the Rangers' butts the first game of the division series that year in 2011, and I think it was 6 or 7 scoreless, and then it was 9-0, and the Rangers were kind of like holy cow, they've lost the first game of the division series at home. They ended up winning the next 3 to win the series, but this was a guy who was the next next big star. That year in 11 with Trout, who made his debut that year, and Matt Moore, you're like, man, this is a great class. And then Moore had to have Tommy John surgery, and he just never really rebounded. It was a second stint with the Rangers. He started, I think it was 2017, and it didn't go very well. And he's bounced around, but it seems like he's kind of found a good role here as a reliever. They worked on his breaking ball. He's got a really good curveball, and he's another guy who'll work late in games for him. Watch out for that breaking ball. It's a pretty good one now.
Yeah. And where is the power coming from in this lineup? We mentioned Corey Seager with I think he's got 15 home runs, but
no.
Where is the pure power coming from?
Well, this month it's been Adolis Garcia. He has matched Seager for the team lead. I'm trying to remember. I wrote this the other day. He either has, I think he has 7 home runs this month. So does Nate Lowe, the first baseman. But Garcia is kind of in the middle of the lineup behind Seager and Simeon, especially against left-handers. He's a really good clutch player. He late in games, he's the guy you want at the plate. But he hasn't homered yet this series against the Royals, but he's had RBI doubles the past two games. So, if you're looking for a power threat who isn't named Corey Seager, it's Adolis Garcia.
And the Texas Rangers, it's kind of odd in a way because we don't think, well, here in New York, unless you're a Yankee fan, you don't really think about the American League much. So, yet when you look at the Texas Rangers, and there is a vast amount of history there. It's like, some people look at the Mets and say there's no history, but when you start to look and think of the players that have come through that organization, it's really quite deep. You have the new ballpark now. It's is this the second or third year that it's open?
Third season. Second season open to fans. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Picked a bad year to open up.
That's so true. Yeah, pick the worst.
But did people realize that the history of the organization, and do they use that in any way to promote the team?
Well, good you brought that up, because this is their 50th year since they moved from Washington. Not their 50th season, but Bob Short bought the Senators and moved them to Arlington in 1972, and so the Rangers have each month brought back guys from bygone era. So they did the 70s in May. They did the 80s this last weekend. They wear a throwback uniform to give some fans some cards. They bring in, they brought in Charlie Huff to throw out the first pitch this last weekend, and Ruben Sierra caught it. And two of their better players in the 80s. The 90s will be a big one for them, but fans are getting educated. I think they're probably fans who didn't realize before Globe Life Field was at the current ballpark, Globe Life Park. Mm-hmm. There are probably fans who don't realize there was a ballpark well before that. So, you got to educate the young group, I think. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's MVP winners. This franchise never won a Cy Young award. They've done pretty good in the MVP department. Nolan Ryan, of course, is probably the player people think of most, even though he only spent 4 or 5 seasons with them. He did so many great things: his 5,000 strikeout, his 6th and 7th no hitters. So he's a legend here. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of good players, and Ivan Rodriguez, Hall of Famer. Adrian Beltre is about to be a Hall of Famer. So people are. This is a big year for the fans, I think.
Yeah, it's always the Mets are celebrating. Well, they're not really celebrating. It's kind of a weird thing. This is our 60th year.
60, yeah.
They're not really there doesn't seem to be any, big 60th year thing. If I'm not explaining it right, but you know what I mean? There's no push towards it or anything. And the biggest thing is they're bringing back Old Timers Day. So
that's cool.
Which is cool, because they haven't had it in a number of years. And I remember as a kid, I used to love going to Old Timers Day and seeing these guys from the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, and you see that it wasn't great. They couldn't play that well, but you read about these legends, and I think it's great when a team does that. And as we were saying, when I was thinking about the Rangers and doing a little research, it just I said, wow, what a great history they had. I mean, they've been to the World Series, unfortunately, weren't successful, but they've been there, and it's really not that long ago.
10 years, or 11 years was the last one,
And they've always had a decent team, but struggled, and they always seemed to run up against the Yankees, and that was their stumbling block, And now I guess it's Houston, but
those 3 division series in the late '90s, I think the Rangers went 1-9 against the Yankees. So, and then they actually won the very first game at Yankee Stadium, and then they lost 9 straight over them. So when they beat the Yankees in 2010 in the ALCS, it was a huge deal, and it was again, symbolism, whatever you want to say. And Alex Rodriguez, who the Rangers had signed in 2001, those winter meetings in 2000, he made the last out, struck out looking, and so it was kind of like, hey, they finally can stomp on that Yankee ghost that's been haunting them. But Ferguson Jenkins played for the Rangers. Bert Blyleven and Gaylord Perry. We mentioned Nolan Ryan, of course. Alex Rodriguez, love him or leave him. Josh Hamilton, Adrian Beltre, Michael Young was a 7-time All-Star. So there's some good players that have come through this franchise.
Yeah, it certainly has, and they should be rewarded for their what they've done in the past, and hopefully people should learn. I mean, I'm a big believer that if you're a fan of a team, you should learn about its history, before not before you go, but it does help to understand the team and the game itself. Learn the history of it, because it's rich and it's full of greatness. So
for sure,
that's what they should learn. Going forward now, what will the Rangers, do you think? What will they do at but before the trade deadline? What will they be looking for? Probably like everybody else in existence, looking for starting pitching and bullpen relief, right?
I don't know that they'll try to, unless something happens over the next month. I don't know that they'll be buyers. I don't think they'll be sellers. I really don't think they have a lot to sell, honestly. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were to pull off a deal that would help them for the next couple seasons. Try to find a controllable starting pitcher or controllable outfielder. They could use a corner outfielder who will definitely be an upgrade. They did this in 2015 when they traded for Cole Hamels. At the time, the rumor started, they were 5 games under 500, and it was pretty clear that it wasn't for that year. But then Hamels comes over, and the Rangers get hot and end up winning the division, going to the postseason. And then, but the plan was, hey, Cole Hamels is going to be under control for 3 more years. Yu Darvish was hurt in 15, and so the thought was, well, when Yu Darvish comes back and Cole Hamels, that'll be the Rangers' chance. And they did win the division in 16. They fell flat in the postseason, but that kind of deal wouldn't surprise me if they were to go try to get a guy who's going to be around for 2-3 years after this one.
Yeah, and I think the Mets are probably in a similar situation. They're going to be looking for depth in their starting pitching and some bullpen help, and maybe we got to do something about our DH as well. It's a spot that's not doing very well, and but I think I read somewhere the numbers are down throughout baseball in the
Sure.
DH, especially in the National League this year. So. We shall see what everybody's in the same boat, it seems. Will they be will they be content to stay close and figure that in the off season they'll try to make the moves maybe that'll put them over the hump, or
Yeah.
will they be I'm sure they'd be happy with a wild card slot.
Yeah, they'd be thrilled with that, but they're still a game under 500 at this point, and you got Boston and Toronto. I'm suspecting the White Sox will get pretty hot. The Indians are good. The Twins are good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are some teams that are definitely better than the rest of the AL West, and it might be a long shot. Now you get in the tournament, you never know, but I would think that they'll be conservative. Their farm system is greatly improved from the last few seasons, and they really believe that these guys are going to help them in the very near future. Like their best player, best minor league position player, was supposed to be the starting third baseman this year. His name's Josh Young. He ended up having shoulder surgery, so he's not going to be around for a while. They've got Jack Leiter, who's at Double A. They have a couple pitchers at AAA who they think are really close. So, their investment pitching wise, honestly, next offseason might be to extend Martin Perez, who's just here on a 1-year deal. So you would have Gray, Perez, Dane Dunning, and then you can kind of throw it up to a group of guys. But, you got to have the financial flexibility so that you can go out and get guys. So you got to have these young guys who are making the league minimum. And you look at everybody wants to grow homegrown starting pitching, and the A's, the Moneyball team. Everybody thinks that Billy Beane was this genius, and he did some very good things, but he also had 3 homegrown pitchers, Zito, Mulder, and Hudson, who pretty much carried that team. So that's what you want. You're affordable. You don't have to worry about losing them, and it helps you balance the budget, so to speak, so that you can go get a piece if you need it. And
Right.
so the Rangers need to give these guys a chance, because you don't want to see them become stars somewhere else.
Right. That's it. Well, Jeff, it should be an interesting series coming up. Mets take on the Texas Rangers this weekend at Citi Field, and I want to thank you for your time. Tell the people where they can listen to your podcast and read your stuff.
Okay. If you go to rangerstoday.com, that's probably like the central nervous system, because you can there are links to the podcasts there. If you want to go search YouTube for Texas Rangers Baseball Podcast or Rangers Today Baseball Podcast works too, it'll come up. We have a lot of minor leaguers on there. But we've had some big leaguers join us, some front office guys. So this is my 15th year covering the team. So they seem a little bit comfortable with me. They seem to trust me a little bit to come on. So so that's good. That's good. But no, we have a good time. It's laid back. We just talk about ball. That's it. That's it.
Yep. That's the best way to do it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you talk ball.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody wants to be lectured.
Well, again, I want to thank you for coming on today and taking the time. And good luck to the Rangers this weekend and the rest of the season.
Well, it's been a lot better. I'll just leave it at that. It's been a lot better.
I know the feeling.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I'll be right back after this. 516-619-6341. That is the comment voicemail hotline if you'd like to be a part of the show, and drop us a line, leave us a comment or a voicemail question, anything at all. Call that number 516-619-6341, or go to MetsMusings.com and click on that widget in the middle of the screen, and that's a speak pipe, and you can leave a voicemail right through your computer through your computer's microphone. Or if you prefer to do things the old-fashioned way, send us an email at metsmusings@gmail.com. The Facebook page is facebook.com/groups/MetsMusings. And if you'd like to help out the show, check out our Patreon page. Check out the campaign at patreon.com/MetsMusings. And now it's time to go down. And on the farm this week, it appears that a lot of the leagues have changed their have completed their first half and have reset their standings for the second half. So we're not going to go into it this week with the numbers, but just to let you know that Brett Batty has put up an impressive performance the last week or so. He hit his 8th home run of the season and reached base 3 times. In a loss, the Rumble Ponies had a 4-game winning streak, ended with that loss, but Brett Batty had a big night, and him and Mauricio and Alvarez continue to lead the Binghamton offense, and good news. That's good news for Met fans, because that's 3 of their top prospects, and they are the guys getting the job done at Double-A, and could bode well. Mauricio is really coming into his own this year. Of course, Alvarez we knew about, and Beatty we kind of knew about, but they're all coming into their own and playing some good baseball, especially offensively. So that's good news. The Cyclones had their own 4-game winning streak snapped on Tuesday, collecting only 3 hits and 2 runs on the night. Both of those runs came in the second inning on a triple from Jose Peroza, who continues to play well for the Cyclones. And St. Lucie, the Mets have hit some rough time. They snapped a 7-game losing streak on Tuesday, and they have a disappointing 2-9 record since clinching the Florida State League Eastern Division title, Part 1, first half, on June 15th. The Mets scored 6 runs in the 7th, flipped the script, and overcome a 4-run deficit. So, the second half of the minor league season is beginning, and other than St. Lucie, the story was not good for the Mets, though the teams showed some improvement towards the end and into the beginning of the second half, and we'll have more on that next week, and more of the standings and whatnot once they get into it a little bit. The AAA, I don't think, has reached their halfway point yet, so they're still continuing with their old standings. But, there are some prospects there. And there are some pitching prospects lower down. Around Brooklyn, maybe even St. Lucie, starting off, a couple sprinkled here and there. So we'll see how it all plays out, and they become important because of the upcoming trading deadline, and the Mets need to do some stuff. So we'll see how that all works out. There's talk about bringing up Francisco Alvarez, and instead of having him catch, maybe just leave him in as the DH to get his bat going. I don't know. That could be a dangerous proposition, because if he fails, sometimes it can affect you as a young man, and you don't want to have him go out of a season, end the season on a bad note, or he could be spectacular, and and then that opens up other possibilities. We'll see what happens as we get closer to the trading deadline. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching and listening. If you're listening to the audio podcast of this, I want to thank my guest, Jeff Wilson of Texas Rangers Baseball Podcast and RangersToday.com, for coming on and talking about the Texas Rangers that we do not see a lot of that team. So it was great to talk to him and to find out a little bit more about this upcoming series between the Mets and the Texas Rangers. So we're going to end it there, and please hit the like and subscribe button no matter where you are, and we would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, remember to keep the faith, stay optimistic, and let's go Mets. And I'll see you next time on another edition of Mets Musings.